Wow, big group. Hi, I'm Brent Patterson. I'm a professor at the State University of New York in Buffalo, and I do artwork. I teach students. I teach mainly with Blender. I've been using Blender since 2006, I think, so a long time. And this is Sam Davis, who I just met 2 hours ago.
Yes, I'm Sam Davis, and I'm a London-based director, mainly working in music videos and commercials. And yes, we literally just met, but we've been working virtually for about 2 years on this music video that we made for a band called For Those I Love.
Well, we worked on the music video for about 2 months at the height of the pandemic in 2020. And so we wanted to share that story with how this video was made because it was a war against odds of sort. And so that's why I have the subtitle, How We Managed to Get This Done. So like many of you Blender artists, I make weird stuff all the time, and then I just post it on social media. And so that's how I spend my spare time, and because I'm a teacher, I'm always investigating new ways of producing things and exploring, and I'm just now diving into geometry nodes. And these are just micro displacement pieces and just various, and the nebula thing, I still do that. So, I got an email on Vimeo one day from Sam, and he noticed some experiments I was doing with Meshroom. Meshroom is a free and open source photogrammetry tool made by Alice Vision, which is a consortium of European academic and industry groups, and they're trying to democratize photogrammetry. And so it makes really excellent photogrammetry pieces, and you can import that directly into Blender. So basically, it'll take photos from any source, a phone or a DSLR, and then you can just feed that into it, and it'll churn it out and generate 3D geometry that way. And some of the pieces, it works really, really well, and sometimes it doesn't work that well. And so I, being an artist, I kind of liked how the parts didn't work well together, and especially if you use it on animate objects like people. And so I was experimenting it with my students. Let's see if it'll play here. Let me go back. Can you guys hit play on that? Should be playing. Oh no, it's going back. We just tested that and it was working before. So it should just click and play. Well, anyway, while he gets that to play, I posted this piece to Vimeo, and Sam saw it, and he wanted to generate a music video off of that. Is it going to work? Because it's kind of an interesting look. I forced my students to sit still while I took all these photos of them, and it looks like how my students look when I've been talking about Blender for 3 hours straight. So it was kind of important to see. And they're like all decimated and degenerated. But it's too bad it won't play, because it was working out before. Let me try hitting that again. Well, it's not going to play. So anyway, so Sam sent me this treatment. This is a brief and animatic for the music video he had envisioned. And mind you, the animatic was made in Cinema 4D. So Sam, I'll let you talk about that project a little bit.
Yeah, so 3,000 miles away, I was writing this idea and coming up with this idea that I had for a band called For Those I Love. And the track was sort of used loads of voice notes from WhatsApp and memories to create the track. And I kind of wanted to use like photogrammetry to create this world of loads of different memories from his life, and then stitch them together using a 3D camera to go through them, almost like a memory train. And very ambitious because I've never worked in 3D before. But I knew how to use Cinema 4D, so I was doing sort of animatics. Before I met Brent, we approached 2 post houses who both turned us down, said it was too ambitious and very stupid idea. And then we actually managed to get one to agree, and then I sent them this animatic, and they quit immediately and left immediately. And we were left with no one to work on it, and I had the job, I'd won the job. And the producer said, what about that reference that you love? And I was like, what, the guy in Buffalo that I found like a reference of? And he was like, yeah, why don't we message him and see if he wants to do the whole video? And I was like, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. Anyway, he did it without me knowing, and then the next day he said, yeah, Brent's agreed to it, and this is the guy whose reference it was.
Initially, they asked me if I wanted to just be a consultant, and that I had time for. I said, yeah, sure, I'll be a consultant. And then Rob, the producer, contacted me again and said, we want you to do the whole video. And I'm a full-time lecturer, and I have a busy family life, but making music videos is sort of a dream of mine, and it's something I've always wanted to do. So I threw caution into the wind and said yes. And let's make this happen. Because I knew I could make it work. I knew Blender could do it. Sam had never worked with Blender, but I said, we can make this happen. And so we started immediately doing some shot tests. And the project had to be turned around. I should also say, we had 2 months to do this. And so this is during the peak of the lockdown, and we can't go anywhere. We have to work only virtually. And so in some ways, photogrammetry was actually the right choice, because we can shoot everyone individually, we can shoot all the sets individually, and then we could bring it all into Meshroom and then put it all together. And so I started running tests. And this is just using simple displacements and build modifiers on top of the mesh that was coming into that Meshroom was spitting out. And because we liked that degenerated look, that it sort of resembled reality, but it also looked like it was highly processed or distorted or broken, that fit what we were trying to do. So in the end, we decided not to do these displacement techniques or anything. We just went with what was coming straight out of Meshroom. And we were going back and forth. I was sending these tests back and forth over email, but that was too slow, so we switched over to Discord. And Discord at the same time made everything free during the pandemic, and my students were using it, I was using it, and so we were able to just have this stream of productivity. We could also share what we were doing live, and that became essential to the process. And then we were trying to optimize the actual photogrammetry section, and one of the experiments we did was Sam was just running through the tube with a 360 camera. And so then what I would do with that footage is I built a rig in Blender, and just a whole bunch of cameras. A rig doesn't really do it. It's not really a rig. It's just a whole bunch of cameras pointed in different directions. And I made that an environmental map, and then exported all those as sequences, and then fed all that back into Meshroom. And then Meshroom said, all right, we're just going to turn that into a geometry again. So that process worked. And if we used 4K video, it would have worked pretty well. But the process was pretty slow. And we had so many different shots to do that I was just going to save this process later. But in the process, we created these new ways of grabbing these geometries, and all with just a cheap 360 camera and Meshroom, which was free. So we had
this was really crazy to see, because I was just very nervously walking down the tube with this 360 camera stuck up, feeling very self-conscious. And then Brent would send me this back, and I'd be like, wow, that's incredible.
It was helpful because, I mean, the pandemic was bad, but there was nobody in the tube, so we were able to go through and get the video of it. And so then we decided to just use iPhones and phones to just capture the individuals, and then we would stitch it all together. This was the back of a garden shot in London, was it?
Yeah, it's just the back of my mate's studio. It's pretty grotty, to be honest.
and so, yeah, I started getting all these photo sets from London, from Dublin, and I started making my own for some certain scenes in Buffalo. And a certain scene I used my nephew, but I used his body, not his head. We replaced his head. And because all the meshes were all jumbled up anyway, it just fit the look. And so the initial tests were all done with cycles. And cycles worked well. It had a beautiful depth of field, and Eevee's depth of field at the time. It still had some artifacts because we were in Blender 2.8. But it still worked out well. But at the end, we decided we were going to render the whole thing with Eevee. And the amazing thing is, as I was going through these tests, I'm just doing all this on a laptop, a Linux laptop, and I'm feeding the video live to Sam in London, and I'm able to just hit play. And he's able to watch this in real time. And so it's like we were able to work on the set together, and that 3,000 miles sort of disappeared. And so this is David Bath, the singer and artist from For Those I Love, and we started doing tests with him. And then we shot a whole bunch of extras, and then this was one of the first just live play blast out of Eevee, where we're just assembling things. The doors were actually missing from Meshroom on this car, so we rebuilt the doors and just started putting in different elements. And so again, I'm able to play this in real time on a laptop for Sam to view, and we can just nudge things this way and that, and just work like we're just working together in a studio. So I've been making media since the early 90s, and so I can remember what it was like to work on Windows 95. So all this always seems like magic to me. And it's amazing to do all the things that I wanted to be able to do in the past, but now I can do it on a laptop for free. And that's what Blender is, right? So it's just amazing. And so we started assembling all this together and then doing actual renders. But the renders we could almost always play in real time as well. And the laptop isn't like a really beefy laptop. It was a few years old. It had a 2070. I was stuck at home. I was teaching all my classes online, so that was the same laptop I was using to teach with. And in the evenings, I was working with Sam to make these renders. And it still works. We didn't kill it. And so that was one of the first renders. And so once we had the process all set up, it was a long slog of putting down together shots. And because the look of the video was such that we didn't mind if it was destroyed or decimated, we left holes in it, it worked out. And we just started building sets after set. This is a rave. And then we just started adding people into the shots. And we didn't have enough people, so they were just duplicated and added to different shots. When we actually started doing the processing for it, adding volumes, adding noise to that volume, and then this is a shot we didn't use with lasers. I like the lasers. But you can see it just kind of worked. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing for me, really, because I'm obviously working on like live action sets a lot of the time, and what was really cool is that the only way this project was possible was to work, with Brent, really, because everyone else was turning it down. So to have a live view that I could see into this world that we were creating together was kind of strange. So it was almost like, although we were like 3,000 miles apart, we were working in this world that we were creating together. It was a very strange process.
It was a lot of fun, though. Our wives would have to tell us to go to bed because we'd been working too late. And so this is a short behind-the-scenes video that Sam put together that sort of shows how much work actually went into the project, putting all these different scenes, all these different characters together. I think the total for the actual photos that were used in the video came to 25,000 photos. And
some scenes were, this was shot in Dublin, that park, and then the motorbikes were shot in Windsor in England, and then some shots were, I think, your nephew in Buffalo, New York. So there was like some scenes were as they were scanned, and some scenes were very much cobbled together.
And also, we should mention George Dyson, who worked in London and helped us. He was a Cinema 4D animator and successfully recruited him into the Blender world. And he composited and edited shots together with After Effects and Premiere. And then the final production was sent to the mill for color grading, and the record company said, we want it in black and white. So all the color work we had to...
Spent hours and hours.
Hours. We put so much work into the color, but we're glad it is the way it is. So do you want to see the video? Yes. All right, here you go.
Stabbed to death and left on bricks. No training that week, my coach couldn't speak. Blood on his hands as the man died at his feet. And me, I stood at the scene. No sheets to block the bodies we dream, they stay evergreen. Senior infants show and tell. What you do the weekend, are you well? Stand in front of the class as they ask. You tell them you looked at the blood left on the road from the man who slept in the field outside your window. Got thrown out of a car with a knife through his heart. In the morning stars, terrified. I went quiet and I stood, and I started to run from love. Cause you're told you need to grow cold to grow old. I was 7 in that same field beside me gaff, kicking through the leaves and the grass until two Garda rock up, batons in hand, and leave you crying for your mam. And this is no dramatics, this is no tales and 90s classics. You spend your whole life being brave and you hope that things will change. So don't fucking ask me why I don't want to age. It just marks the time of things staying the same. But the songs sound fun and you dance with your mates and it's grand then till the next day. sides off trains with stones. We did that cause we were broke. We did that cause we had no hope or a place to go. We did that cause we didn't say no 20 years ago. And it still comes out when we get vocal. Singing in the local. A lonely feeling came all me stealing. Some sober as a judge and the other boys out the nut, and all of us dancing like there's no one left in the world but us. And these days it feels like there isn't. There's no way to put that loss into words. But we'll wrap our arms around shoulders and scream love from our lungs. And we'll escape the Friday football and hugs and tell tales of nights and days spent in teenage fun. Cause the world is a cruel, cruel place without the love. So we'll spend the rest of our life being brave and hope that things will change. And age will still mark the time in the same way. But I'll hold on a little tighter to the love of my mates. Forever and a day.
Wonder how friends are okay.
It's been a while since I have some faith. It's been a while since I have some faith. I can't face the pain. It's been a while since I have some faith.
We're using this clip, right?
It's been a while since I have some faith. I can't face the pain.
That's our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.